Hi there, and welcome back to another episode at Station Road. Now, today's video is just a very quick update, and it relates to just finishing off some of the point motors and wiring up the Electro-Frogs on the section behind me, and you can see that that section is raised up at the moment. Now, one of the issues, of course, with the section behind me is directly below, of course, there is another level of tracks, and there is some issues with height restrictions. So when it came to sorting out the wiring for the Electro-Frog points, I couldn't use the PL13 accessory switches that would normally be attached underneath a Peco solenoid point. So I was racking my brains as to a solution to this particular issue. Initially, I was just going to use some relay switches to essentially take over that responsibility of switching the frog to the correct polarity. But what I've actually used is a recent addition to the Rails Connect series of products. Essentially, you can buy these in packs of 3 or individually as well, I believe. But when I had a look at these when they first came out, I thought this could actually be a really good solution, because not only can it operate under DC, it can also actually operate under DCC. So possibly in the future, where I might switch all my accessories to DCC, these devices are pretty much ready to go. So I've mounted these under the baseboard on the same panel where the diode matrix sits for the fiddle yard. Now, the beauty about these Rails Connect devices is it has a relay built in that controls the frog polarity. It also has a CDU built in, and it also has the ability to connect up LEDs for your control panel. Now, I don't have LEDs on my control panel, but I can't see any reason why those connections could be used for a 2-aspect signal or potentially a semaphore signal. So one of the interesting aspects, of course, with this pack is, of course, it comes with the Rails Connect solenoid point motors. Now, in this situation, I haven't actually used the Rails point motors because, funnily enough, they're just a smidgen deeper than the Peco point motors. So I've used some of the low amp Peco point motors, and I can confirm that they work just as well as the Rails point motors on this Rails Connect device. One of the interesting aspects is this rather elaborate looking wiring now that sits underneath this panel, and it looks very complicated. I've tried to map it out as best as I can so that it kind of makes some form of logical sense, but nonetheless, for 3 lines of track, 4 points and dropper wires and so forth, it seems like an awful lot of wiring for this particular panel. Now, the reason why there's so much wiring, and you sort of think maybe I could have doubled up on some of the wiring, but you can't really, unfortunately, because it is actually a panel that lifts up, and so everything has to go out through one entry point or exit through into the lower level of the baseboard and out down underneath to the control area. So yeah, it's just the way it is. So there we have it. That is really the final part of that upper level of track, with connecting up the point motors and the Electro-Frogs into a system that works quite well. So the next video in this series will look at connecting up the lower loop line, which is just over that way, and there'll be some interesting aspects to this particular part of the extension, because at the same time it will be the beginning of building up some of the scenic side of the extension in conjunction with connecting up that lower loop. So I'll leave it there for now. Take care, everyone. Do look after yourselves, and for those in the Northern Hemisphere, enjoy your summer months to come. It is now coming into winter here, and it is rather cold here in the garage. But I'll sign off for now and see you next time.